Viva Rock Vegas is a prequel. It takes place several years before we actually met the Flintstones in 1960, and tells how recent Bronto Crane Academy graduates Fred Flintstone and Barney Rubble met Wilma Slaghoople and Betty O'Shea and courted, as Steven Spielberg says, and fell in love.
Rock Vegas has a huge place in bedrock lore. That was a place that they talked about a lot on the original TV series, and they'd go there, and Ann Margret and Stoney Curtis would be there, and it's something that everyone remembers from the first one. Rock Vegas is something that people know and love from the Flintstones.
We wanted to build the biggest, grandest set ever, and I think we've succeeded. It's almost a half-mile long, and we built the Stardust Hotel and all its shimmering crystalline beauty, and the dunes, and then the whole strip, and every piece of signage, and it's a huge undertaking, and took months and several hundred people to build.
I don't know how many times we redesigned that set. First of all, you have to come up with a lot of different concepts, and then you have too many concepts, and then, of course, there are budgetary constraints, so you keep having pull back and saying, how am I going to get that big look? How is it going to look like a Las Vegas Strip? And we actually only have 2 casinos that we actually built the exteriors of. How are we going to make this look big? And basically, we learned from looking at a lot of photographs of Vegas. And if you look at photographs of Vegas at night, all you see is signs and sort of like this vague shadows of buildings sort of falling off in the distance. So that's it. Here we're going to do all these big signs as you're coming in. They're going to stack up. It's going to make it look like there's a lot going on. And at any rate, I'm most proud of that because it actually worked.
1,000 guys are waiting out there. They're all living, the devil may care. And I'm just a little devil with a lot of love to spare. Viva Rock Vegas.
The production values were so incredible, and when you first walked on the set and saw the colors that were going to be our reality, and the design and the scope, I mean, everything was so huge. You know, rule 1 was that you had to act at least as large as your prop.
Are you hurt, Wilma?
Who's Wilma? We made over 27,000 props and pieces of set dressing, furniture, everything from toothpicks to tour buses. And it's all great fun, and new cars made of different materials out of giant shells and huge tree trunks, and a Dodge Ram truck built out of the skull of an enormous ram. So, you know, we're always looking for new materials to use to add to our repertoire of the stone, bone, and skin.
When you walked into that world, it just sort of happened. Your energy elevated to the amount of color, and so I think it made it a lot easier, and it was such a fantastical world. I thought it was so beautiful to look at.
There isn't any property that exists that could tax one's imagination and skills in so many areas as the Flintstones do, in design, in building cars and wardrobe, and a civilization from scratch, and that's great fun. Plus, you have tremendous characters who are loved all around the world, and we had just a wonderful cast portraying them.
Casting is always this combination of what you think is in your head as to who this person should be, and then you're combining that with what the actor in front of you is bringing to that. And you're always wanting to not make a decision until the person comes into the room and they open their mouth and you know that is the character.
I believe you create your own opportunities in life. You gotta go out there and make things happen. I mean, it's not like something's just gonna drop out of the sky, land right in front of you, and change your whole life.
We looked at many men with large waistlines to play Fred Flintstone. But we finally found the typical average American caveman living in York, England, in the body of Mark Addy, one of the stars of the Full Monty. And when we did our original test, he didn't even try an American accent, but what came through was the brashness and the vulnerability and the heart that you expect from Fred Flintstone, and we knew we'd found him.
He channeled this part, and he's so real. That's the thing. The trick is being real, yet a character, without being a caricature.
The Flintstones is actually loosely based on the Honeymooners. So I started watching Gleason perform, and there is, you know, Cramden and Flintstone are one and the same person, basically. So Gleason gave me ideas about the physicality and about the, also about the voice as well, a different kind of rage that bubbles under the surface.
She says she wants to go back to our place and cook me breakfast. I don't know what we're gonna do until then, but you know I can't turn down a good meal.
All we had to do to transform a normally fine dramatic actor into Barney Rubble is part his hair down the middle, tell him to hunch over a little bit, not quite fully evolved, put his mouth on one side of his face, go, and he was there.
I welcomed the opportunity to play Barney Rubble. I thought, first of all, as an actor, I thought it was going to be tremendously challenging and fun. I grew up again loving the Flintstones and loving Barney. So for me, I just knew I was going to have a good time.
We'll be just like our mothers.
Kristen Johnson of Third Rock from the Sun decided to join us as Wilma because here she is, this unbelievable comedian, and she's doing so many things that no one's ever asked her to do in a movie, to be a leading lady, to carry the emotional weight of the story on her shoulders and hold everything together. She just does an amazing job, and she does such great physical comedy, and no one does a joke like her.
I got like 12 episodes on a tape. And I was about to watch them, and I thought, wait a minute, no, this is so different than the script. The Wilma in the script is so different than what she ends up being in the cartoon. I thought it would actually kind of get in my way. I did do some slight voice stuff. Her voice is higher, and walk, and the way she sort of moves her face, and little things, but very subtle. And the first movie I didn't watch at all because obviously this is a prequel, so what's the point?
Oh, I'm Betty. I'll be your waitress. The fish is fresh, but be careful, so are the bus boys.
Jane Krakowski plays Betty O'Shale, who plays Elaine on Ally McBeal. People would probably know her best from. And she's just got those huge eyes, and she's sweet and sassy and sexy.
I was a big fan of the cartoon when I was a kid, but when you're a kid, you don't think, oh, one day I will be Betty Rubble. So I went back and looked at it after, actually when I was auditioning for the part, and tried to bring as much of the cartoon voice within reason. You know, we started out, I think the cartoon voice was a little too much, and then we sort of toned it down so it would seem a bit more realistic, and just finding that balance between the cartoon and what we were going to use as the reality for this one.
You are hopeless, Gazoo. Actually, it's Gazoo. Gah. Let's all say it together.
Silence! We are sending you to a planet with virtually no civilization for you to muck up.
Please, no, anything but...
You are to document the Earthlings' bizarre mating ritual of love and marriage.
Why can't they reproduce like we do?
It's a boy!
Oh, and so green and slimy.
And around the mid-'60s there, Hanna-Barbera decided that what the Flintstones needed was a little spaceman. And so they brought in a little green guy, about ye big, named the Great Gazoo, with strange powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal man, to kind of serve as Fred's conscience. And although he was originally sent to blow up the world, he took a shining to the boys and decided not to.
He's a little flying little space alien little fella, lovingly portrayed by Alan Cumming, as only Alan can play him.
Nothing appealed to me about playing this part because I just thought, what's that? I have no idea what they're talking about. I just thought it sounded like a silly name. And I just, you know, I didn't. And then I was working on this thing, and I went to work, and I said, you know, they're doing another Flintstones film, and they want me to play someone called the Great Gazoo. And everyone was going, oh my God, you'd be perfect for that.
Action! Aha! At last, some hormonal activity. All right.
I've never worked in a play or in a film where I've had, you know, like a big, huge harness on and big metal poles sticking out of my sides and big, huge plastic things glued to my face every morning and contact lenses. And I actually think I've never done something where so much of my body was covered up. I've never known of any film company being so desperate for me to do a part and then completely disguised me so much when I accepted it.
I couldn't believe the magnitude and scope of the special effects in the film. I didn't realize. I mean, you read it in the script, but you don't, you know, realize it until you see it up on screen. And it's awesome. You know, there's a lot of stuff in this film that's going to surprise a lot of people in regard to the special effects.
Since the first Flintstones movie, technology has moved at such a pace that, you know, 6 years down the line, the quality of special effects is staggering.
Nobody ever knew that Dino was hatched from an amusement park. And nobody knew that he was so gosh darn cute when he was a kid.
Dino was created by the Jim Henson production people, and it was just so amazing to see like a guy running the face of this puppet who looked so realistic in real life, and he would be hiding under a rock or, you know, under the car, and he'd be running this puppet, and then about a mile down the road there would be 6 guys at the largest computer bay running all the other features, so he would look truly animal-like. And it was amazing how they could make this thing run, and how, you know, you could make one eye blink different than the other or show emotion, and quite amazing. And other times, you know, we'd have a doll there and we'd be like, no, Dino, no. There's like nothing there.
This picture was interesting because for the Dino character, we were actually doing a combined performance with the Henson Studios. The Henson guys were doing a puppet Dino, and we were doing a fully computer animated Dino. But they had to completely cut back and forth from scene to scene. And so we not only had to make sure that they looked technically identical, but we had to make sure that the performance of the character was identical as well.
You just go off on this roller coaster ride, and that's Brian. That's what Brian brought to it. And he also was smart enough to let the actors really work with him. You know, he wasn't some dictator. He said, "Go, great, try it," you know, and that was great.
Brian's enthusiasm for the Flintstones, like, so transferred onto everybody else. It was incredible. Like, I didn't know that much about the Flintstones. I definitely watched it, but I just said, you don't sort of watch with that eye that you're ever going to do it. This guy knows every fact about the Flintstones, and his enthusiasm really got me enthusiastic about doing the movie as well.
Brian is one of those guys that understands the history of comedy and certain technical realities about how it's delivered and certain movements and vaudevillian kind of classic cliche stuff. And so for me, it's, you know, it's nice to be able to trust somebody that they know what they're doing. And Brian is far more knowledgeable than I am and has helped me a lot.
Well, you can't predict chemistry. Chemistry is a byproduct of a lot of elements, of providing an environment where people can be free enough to walk around in dresses and barefoot in a rock quarry and try their best, and getting along with each other and sharing common goals and really trying to do something different.
I think the main thing that gelled was when we all got together, just the good fun that we were having, and when someone would do something, we're like, oh, that's really funny, and then we'd all do it and agree to do that. And, you know, the more fun we had on the set, I think the more fun the audience will have.
I still like the same things I liked when I was 8 years old, and I like things to create happiness. And there is nothing in my mind that makes you smile as much as the imagery and the creativity of the Flintstones.